I've always found the process of figuring out what card to use, what hotels to stay in, what flights to use when traveling internationally extremely fascinating. So in today's video, we'll be covering my trip report to Dubai. My name is Abhi. This is Credit Debit with Abhi, and like we do in all of our videos, without further ado, let's dive in. I completed the Dubai trip over the 4th of July weekend, and I traveled with my parents and my sister. We spent about 8 days in Dubai, and it was absolutely fantastic to spend some quality time with the family. Let's start the video with the selection of flights. On the way over, I flew British Airways, and I was able to book British Airways business class using Cathay Pacific miles. So if you haven't seen my video on it already, I'll link it up there. So what I did was I used my American Express membership reward points, transferred them over to Cathay Pacific, and used Cathay Pacific to book British Airways Airlines. And the reason I used Cathay Pacific instead of using British Airways directly is because Cathay Pacific charges lower taxes and fees than British Airways does. And using the Cathay Pacific miles, I was able to extract well above the 2 cents per point that I set for my credit card points and miles. And my personal experience with British Airways was actually pretty decent. The initial flight from here to London was actually their flagship club suite, where you can actually close the door, so it was pretty decent. I would rate it as good as, if not better than, the United Polaris. Now don't get me wrong, United Polaris isn't the best business class in the sky, but for most flyers flying out of America, it's a good benchmark to use. The other interesting thing was that it got me to London on time, and I transited out of Terminal 5, and so the connecting flight was from Terminal 5 as well, and this was one of their older aircrafts, and so the seating configuration was kind of weird. It was a double-decker, so I selected a business class seat in the upper deck where the configuration was 2, 3 and 2, and so you can literally look at the other person sitting across from you in the business class seat. So that was a little weird, but other than that, my experience with British Airways was actually pretty good. Now on the way back, I just booked United Airlines with cash. If you do not know this already, United Airlines flight operations has gone haywire. Delayed flights, cancelled flights, lack of communication, lack of being able to reach customer service people. So if you can avoid United Airlines for the time being, do it. But fortunately for me, when flying back, United Airlines flight was on time and I was able to get back on time. Nothing fancy here. I used my plus points to see if I could get an upgrade. I've mentioned this in some of my other videos, but I have Premium Platinum with United, but I'm guessing there were a bunch of people who already had status, or that there were not enough business class seats available for the upgrade, so I did not get an upgrade on the flight back over. Now let's move on to the hotels. In one of my reviews about the Built Rewards program, which I'll link up there, I spoke about being able to get Hyatt Explorer status and even maintaining it even after the 3-month window that they were giving it to you for. The only condition that they had is that you stay at a Hyatt property for about 10 days. So to hit that 10-night number to maintain Explorer status, I booked Park Hyatt in Dubai using some of my points and some cash. So I had to stay 6 nights at this property to hit that 10-night number and maintain my status. Now this property is more like a resort than what you would imagine when you think about a Dubai property. And the property is beautiful. The staff is excellent. We had food at their Thai kitchen, which was phenomenal. What I would say is that the breakfast was good, but it wasn't outstanding. So generally when you go to hotels in Asia and the Middle East, these hotels make some of the best food I've ever had. But in this particular instance, the food was decent. It didn't blow my mind. And I've also realized that I really like traveling during the off season to some of these locations because the hotels aren't that crowded. So your chances of getting an upgrade, which we did when we arrived at the property here because of the Explorer status. And what I've realized is I really like traveling during the off season because the chances of getting an upgrade and just the general crowd at these hotels will be much lesser. And when you're traveling out and about, you just see lesser crowds, which I really like. So yes, this was an off season, it was scorching hot, but I grew up in India where it was very, very hot, so I have no problems with the heat. The Park Hyatt also had a lagoon area on both sides of the hotel, and these lagoon areas almost made it seem like you're right by the ocean. The rooms too had a steam room within it, which was phenomenal, but most of these hotels have these transparent or translucent glasses from the bathroom and from the toilet, and I don't quite get it. It becomes especially uncomfortable when you're traveling with your family, but even if you're traveling as a couple, it just is weird. And for the last 2 days of our stay, we moved over to the Waldorf Astoria. I booked this using the Fine Hotel and Resorts program. Now, the interesting thing about the Fine Hotels and Resort program and their linkage to Hilton is that unlike a lot of other hotel programs that you book through Fine Hotel and Resorts, when you book a Hilton property through Fine Hotel and Resorts, you can give your Hilton membership number and the hotel will take it into account. Now, this was big for me because I do have the Hilton Aspire card, and through that I get diamond status with Hilton. So even though I booked through Fine Hotels and Resort, I was eligible for upgrades when I got to the hotel. Plus other brilliant benefits such as early check-in. So we were able to check into the hotel at 12 p.m. because we had to check out of the Park Hyatt at 12. Free breakfast, a room on a very, very high floor. So I believe we had a room on the 48th floor in the building. And the reason I booked it through Fine Hotels and Resorts and not through the Hilton property is because the price was relatively the same, but I was getting $200 back through the Fine Hotels and Resorts credit, and we were able to book a room that could accommodate 4 people. Moreover, we also got a $100 credit towards food and beverage and spa, and so we were able to eat and order in the hotel and get the $100 used for. And if I were to point out the difference between the Waldorf Astoria and the Park Hyatt, it would be this. So the Park Hyatt is more like a resort, and the Waldorf Astoria is bang in the middle of the financial district, and so it does feel like a corporate hotel, but it's laid out beautifully. The interior architecture is beautiful. Personally, I really liked it, but if I had to do it again, I'd probably split my time the same way. Now let's move on to the section around credit cards. Going in, I was thinking that I was going to be using my Amex Gold card for dining everywhere. So you get 4x back for dining, and you don't pay any foreign transaction fees. But since a lot of places weren't accepting American Express, I switched over to the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which also doesn't charge you foreign transaction fees and gives you 3x back on dining. I also used the Chase Sapphire Preferred for all of our commuting services like taxis, because you get 2x back on travel as a category, and taxis do count as travel. Specifically at the hotels, for all of my expenditure at Park Hyatt, I used the Chase Hyatt card, and then for all of my expenses at the Waldorf Astoria, I used my Hilton Aspire card. At the Hyatt properties, I get 4x back on the Chase Hyatt card, and at Hilton properties, I get 14x back. That actually is closer to 34x back, and if you value the Hilton points at about 0.6 cents per point, that translates to about 20% back. And you can see my video up here for more details around that. Now, overall, the vacation was much needed, and it was very relaxing. Dubai is an expensive place, and it sneaks up on you. For example, we went into this aquarium in Dubai Mall, and the tickets were damn expensive. Now, the experience inside was definitely worth it, but you have to watch out for the expenses climbing very, very quickly. Overall, it's a trip I would happily do again, but let me know what your strategy would be if you travel to Dubai, and how would you use the credit cards available in your portfolio. If you found this video engaging, smash that like button. If this is the second time watching a video, consider subscribing, and like always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.